after reviewing the Black Album Unload, today we are closing out the 90s with the final record, Reload. Despite being Load's twin, with being spiritually and mentally to Metallica just one album, that does not mean the Reload does not have things that makes it unique. And if we point it out, we can understand the differences between the two underrated hard rock tunes. So welcome friends to our journey to review each and every single one of the Metallica albums before the next one drops later this year or early next year. So let's start. We've talked a lot on how Metallica experimented with a lot of different things in the 90s, and Reload is no exception. Despite being far less creative than its twin Load, Reload has its share of cool experiments. One of these things is that Reload is the only Metallica album and has the only song that starts right from the vocals with no instruments included at all before we jump into the main riff. That song is Fuel.
So, give me fuel, give me fire, give me that one satisfied.
So that's really cool to see Metallica open an album and a song that way. Also, Reload has a really cool thing. A guest appears on one of its songs, which is The Memory Remains. You know that part where the old lady is singing na 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 na. And actually, fun fact about the guest, she was a pretty popular singer in the 1960s in England. Her name was Marianne Faithfull. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. And she also dated Mick Jagger from the Rolling Stones. So it's really interesting that she appears on a Metallica record being Reload. Another thing that makes Reload a very, very special record is that it's one of 3 Metallica albums that had a song based on Jason Newsted's ideas, being Unjustice for All with Blackened, the Black Album with My Friend in Misery, and Reload with Where the Wild Things Are. And he actually came up with the song on guitar, not the bass. I believe that the melodic, creepy riff is written by him. And I heard a lot that he wrote the solo too, which is believable, but still, even though the solo is really unique, it still has some Kirk Hammett flavors into it, so I don't know. And not only is the song written by him, it's also a gold mine of creativity. It's so sinister and honestly fresh and un-Metallica style, even on Load and Reload. As we know from our Black Album Unload reviews, Metallica used a lot of unconventional instruments on the songs, but only one song on Reload took that to a whole new level. That song is Low Man's Lyric. While most of Metallica's trials to use other instruments was kinda the cherry on top of the cake, Low Man's Lyric made the unique instrument that cake, with everything else built on it. The instrument is a bit weird. It's called a hurdy-gurdy, which kind of sounds like bagpipes. And actually, Metallica, when writing the song, didn't have the hurdy-gurdy in mind. They just wrote the melody on guitar like any other song we know of. And we know that from the making-ofs and the demo. But Metallica quickly took it to a whole other direction, which makes it one of the most, if not the most unique Metallica song they have ever written. alongside with Mama Said, being the two really un-Metallica territory of genres here. And also, Low Man's Lyric is the second Metallica song after Mama Said to have really heavy strumming, particularly in the choruses.
Transpires warm, but no one's safe from the storm. I can't bear to see, but I believe me, so wicked and warm.
So this song is a gem, guys. Another really cool experiment that Metallica does a lot is reversing stuff to make new cool melodies. They have done that on Blackened, Damage Inc., and on Fixer, particularly in the intro of the song. And after re-reversing it back, I heard that it's actually pretty much just the melody of the main riff, but reversed. That's such a cool Easter egg in Fixer, the incredible twin of the other masterpiece, The Outlaw Torn. James really developed in the 90s as a singer, and Load Reload era were his peak as a vocalist. Reload, however, showed an obviously different style than Load in terms of vocals. Load was more melodic and rough, with less badass sort of singing, while Reload was totally the opposite. More badass vocals with less melodic and rough singing. So when it comes to beautiful, balanced singing, Load is much better. But when it comes to catchy, upbeat, maybe seductive style of singing, that's where Reload really shined in terms of vocals. That's why Reload verses and choruses, the part with the singing, can be the most upbeat and maybe cool ones in Metallica's discography, like in songs such as Carpe Diem Baby, Better Than You, and Bad Seed. Sometimes there is also little to any singing going on, just funky, upbeat vocals, like on Prince Charming and Attitude. which I personally like and find fitting for the songs. And still, that does not mean that Reload does not have any melodic, soothing sort of vocals that we find in abundance on Load. We do find some songs that deliver that, like Low Man's Lyric and The Unforgiven 2.
Lay beside me and tell me what they've done and speak the words I wanna hear to make my demons run. The door is locked now, but it's opened if you're true. If you can understand the me, then I can understand the you. The trash pile is warm, but no one's safe from the storm, and I can't bear to see what I've let me be. So wicked and wild.
And also the rough yet mature and serious vocals that appear a lot on Load do appear here too sometimes, like on The Unforgiven 2 and on Fixer.
What I felt, what I've known, sick and tired, I stand alone. Could you be there? 'Cause I'm the one who waits for you. Or are you unforgiven too? But tell me, can you heal what Father's done? Or fix this hole in a mother's son? Can you heal the broken worlds within? Can you strip away so we may start again?
So in conclusion, I would label the Reload vocals as more sexy or funky than Load's more mature, maybe beautiful style of singing. Let's talk about the differences in the music and, well, maybe some other things. The first important thing to stress on here is that Load is a much more mature record, while Reload is a much more funky, upbeat one. That appears in many things, as we mentioned. The style of vocals, the lyrical topics themselves. Compare Bleeding Me, The House Jack Built, and Hero of the Day to Better Than You, Bad Seed, and Attitude. The lyrical topics seem to have a very different approach in terms of maturity and the overall style of writing. Another major difference between the two Loads is that Load is a much more melodic album, while Reload is much heavier than Load.
Sound-wise, there's a lot of new sounds. I think these songs are the more extreme songs left over from Load. When we recorded Load, I think when we started recording it, we went initially for the kind of easier to record songs to kind of get in the mood of being in the studio. Then we ran out of time. So all these songs are kind of the more wilder ones. Slower, heavier, faster. There's some more stripped down, kind of folksy stuff.
Look at how many actual ballads we have on Load. We have like 4, more than any other Metallica album. But Reload has only 2 actual ballads. We have The Unforgiven 2 and Low Man's Lyric. Even Where the Wild Things Are has too many heaviness in it. So while Load focuses more on this,
Where do I take this pain of mine? I run, but it stays right by my side.
Reload focuses more on this.
Come clean, best up, tell all, spill guts, off the bed, stand reveal, show the cards, bring it on, break the seal.
Load also in general has more bass parts than Reload. Of course, with bass sections on Until It Sleeps, The Outlaw Torn, Cure, and Think Nothing, Load only has one on Devil's Dance, which ironically is so much more funky and cool one. Also, another major difference I find is that Reload songs have too many solos in comparison to Load, which is also an observation I found in other two records, Ride the Lightning and Kill 'Em All. When an album has too many solos stuffed in a single composition, it tends to be more immature, but great and fun style of composing, like in the case of Kill 'Em All songs like Phantom Lord, and Reload songs like Better Than You. I also found something weird, that Reload has a lot of these pre-chorus things added to the composition compared to Load on a lot of songs. Bob Rock produced the Black Album, and it is always praised for its amazing production and sonics. But what about Load and Reload? They too were produced by Bob Rock, and they too sound amazing. The guitar tone on these albums sound very 90s style, but still super in your face like the Black Album. The bass tone too sounds very, very good. It's very crispy, very ringing, very tight. Also, as we said before, the snare sound on the record, it's just really powerful and adds to the song a lot. And we have to put in mind that James achieved all of these great things as a vocalist without the usage of autotune and pitch correction softwares. If vocal cracks happen, sometimes they are kept in their original state, like in Low Man's lyric, the voice crack was kept. The trash was warm. The overall sound is just perfect, not too overcompressed. Bass is audible and sounds great. Vocals sound great. And that, of course, adds a lot to the record and to the songs. Reload's track list is really special because it has a lot of variety. We have a lot of cool stuff, from thrashier songs like Fuel to ballads like The Unforgiven 2 to slow, heavy, head-banging songs like Devil's Dance, from long epics like Fixer to awesome contained short songs like Bad Seed. And this diversity in styles and tastes is what makes me love Load and Reload that much. But the main big difference in the two loads when it comes to the track list is the quantity of fillers. Don't get me wrong, I absolutely love the less known filler songs. They are great songs with great riffs, Great vocals, great moments. But there is no denying that they are not as strong as the main highlights of the record. While Load has very, very few songs that I can call filler, Reload, however, is not the same. The album starts off with such a strong start, maybe even a stronger start than Load, with Fuel, The Memory Remains, Devil Dance, then The Unforgiven 2. But then there's such a gap until we reach our other highlight. Don't get me wrong, these songs are really awesome, and I would not trade them for anything. That's why I love Reload. But it seemed that Metallica did not have as much strong material to fill Reload with in comparison to Load. It took me longer to like songs like Slither and Attitude compared to Ronnie and Cure. But honestly, the more I listen to these songs, the more I like them more. Where some of them even became Load and Reload highlights to me. For example, Carp Diem Baby and Better Than You. And by the way, Better Than You won a Grammy. And songs like Bad Seed and Prince Charming are also awesome stations in the Reload journey. So Reload was a record that needed time to grow on me, rather than Load, which became an instant classic. That's the main difference in the track listing. And yes, till now I do think songs on Load are stronger. So tell me, what do you think of that? Reload has a lot of special stuff when it comes to solos. First of all, yeah, while Load has 3 James solos, Reload has only 1, which is on Carp Diem Baby. And I have discussed on multiple videos how this solo is super special to me. It is so well written and emotional, while being upbeat at the same time. Now, what about Kirk's solos? They too have a lot of attributes that make Reload a very unique album in terms of lead. First of all, the songs do have multiple solos stuffed into one composition, like we said before. But also the general style on almost all of the songs give me this very hard rocky vibe, if you know what I mean. And also a very cool observation I've noticed while listening to a lot of the Reload songs is that sometimes the lead licks follow what James is doing on the vocals to produce more or so the same melody, which is a super cool observation we find in songs like Better Than You. Where the Wild Things Are. Bad Seed. Sometimes we have the typical hard rock stuff we talked about on songs like Slither and The Memory Remains. And sometimes we have the very weird, creative, maybe evil, sinister solos. And of course, the thrashy solos with some melodic elements have to make an appearance because it is Metallica, after all, on songs like Fuel. So we discussed everything we could today in this Reload review, from vocals to solos to experiments to lyrics, and I'm very happy that we got to give justice to Load and Reload, two of the best Metallica records in my opinion in these album reviews we're doing. So make sure to follow all of our social media, Facebook, Instagram, Telegram, link in description.